So the main finding is that people and other animals use their behaviour to control their experiences. So all the things we see people do are their ways of trying to make their experiences, what's coming in through their senses, just right. Whether that be the temperature they want their porridge, whether it be the grade they want on their exams. We all have this way of organising all the things that matter to us and managing our lives in that way. And consciousness is the way that we sort through this on a moment-to-moment basis to work out what's most important right now.
That was great, I love that. I also love the mechanic analogy that you guys used in the
Yeah,
mirrors.
yeah,
Can you
yeah.
maybe explain that?
Yeah. So one way of explaining consciousness is to think of consciousness as a way of fixing your car, okay? So often when a mechanic needs to sort out your car, they get the engine running and they look around all the different parts and see how they're going. And that's the idea of what consciousness does. It's got a spotlight and it goes all around the different things that matter to us in our lives, that come in and out of our minds, and it sits with the ones where there might be a problem, where there might need to be a bit of extra thought or tinkering around with other ideas. And the longer we sit with that and we focus our consciousness on the thing that really bothers us, the more chance we've got of coming up with a new way of seeing it or a solution.
And in terms of this research, how is it going to work in everyday life? So there's an example in the media release about decision making. Can you explain that in further detail?
Yeah. If we understand that consciousness is about helping people to regain control of their lives or to kind of optimise how much control over things that matter to them that they have in their lives, then we can provide more and more opportunities for people to talk and think and consider those things, whether that be kind of conversations they might have with a friend, whether it might be a conversation they have with a counsellor, but also raise other opportunities for it, ways of working through them in text or in writing or in interactive mobile apps, opportunities within cafes or within groups where people have got this opportunity and the chance to talk through what's going on for them. And this can be really valuable in areas of life where people have very limited amount of time, or there's an expectation that you should be tough and you should be able to deal with pressure, because all that's needed from this approach is just a little bit of time to increase the amount of opportunity for someone to weigh up a problem and to see it in a different way. And every little bit is a step towards a better way of resolving problems than just jumping to the thing that first comes to mind, or kind of trying to address it in our old habits, if you like.
And just in terms of how is this approach different to other approaches that have been used in this field previously?
Yeah. So it's different in two ways. The theory of consciousness is very different because it's so practical. And most theories of consciousness out there are very theoretical or almost mystical or mathematical in nature. And the practical applications are actually very different from what traditionally happens when people need help. They often have to exceed some kind of clinical threshold. They see an expert who gives a diagnosis or presents some understanding, whereas this is very different. This is about nipping it in the bud, providing opportunities very early, as soon as an everyday problem comes to a person, and finding as many opportunities as possible for them to consider it and explore it and resolve it before it gets anywhere near as challenging as it can be when it reaches that crisis level.
And why is an approach like this so important in this day and age, do you think? Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. In this day and age, we can be increasingly drawn to focus our concentration on one thing. Now, that started with the Industrial Revolution. It's now with things like smartphones and iPads and gaming. And whilst that can give us abilities to do those games and to do those applications, it can sometimes miss out on the bigger picture and the broadening of our conscious awareness. And that's probably why there's much more interest now in encouraging nature engagement, in encouraging people to talk about what's bothering them. And I think we need that underpinned by a theory as to why that works, to bring everyone on board, to help us realise it makes practical sense, but it also makes scientific sense as well.